Today, we're going to release onto the world some of the most important knowledge about how to take your EVE gameplay to entirely new heights. So get ready to have your world rocked because everything changes now. In this video, we're going to be laying it all bare. What my keybinds are, why I have them laid out like that, and how you can easily get them for yourself. But before we get to keybinds, we need to cover probably the most important feature in EVE Online, and that is the radial wheel menu. And it's really quite simple. You just go ahead and hit the escape key, bring up your options. You go to gameplay, which is right here, and then right at top, you have open radial menu with. I heavily like to have this as my right mouse button, and then I like to have a pretty small delay here. And what this does is revolutionize your game. You can then right click in space, hold it down, and get this radial menu, and it has like all of the actions you generally need to take. You can do it on your overview, you can do it on your ship, you can do it on stations, you can do it on bookmarks, you can do it in your locations area. And something also very important is that say we warp to something, the radial menu actively updates. A lot of things in EVE don't, so like you're gonna have to just like spam click warp if you want to warp somewhere else. But as we see here, I'm gonna go ahead and skip to where we're close. So now we are in warp and we can go ahead and right click an abyssal trace bookmark, sure. And you see how all this is grayed out? The moment we can warp again, this will highlight. We just hold it down, we wait, we see it highlights, we click. This will save your bacon in so many scenarios and occasions. Having that immediate response is way better than waiting for like each 1 second tick interval and just hoping that something happens. So first and foremost, do this. If you do nothing else in this video, just make sure you do your radial menu. So now that that's out of the way, let's get into the actual keybinds. So simply put, here they are. I've created almost something like a spreadsheet, and this is a layout kind of as your keyboard is if you look at it. So we have the tilde key up here in the top left, and then it goes 1 2 3 4 5 QWERT ASDFG ZXCVB. And then you have your modifiers, Shift, Control, Alt, and then space is just a key. The way we read this is that if nothing is modified, it's going to do this. Broadcast radial, launch drones, drone engage. If you have the Shift, the pink key engaged, it's going to do these things. Untag, tag, 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 overheat, overheat. If you have Control, blue, it's going to do all the blue things. And lastly, if you have green, Alt, it's going to do all of the green things. Crazy, I know, right? And the way we have laid this out is in such a way that you can pretty much always keep your hand just in a position ready to go, ready to do everything that you need to do in New Eden that your mouse can't do. For our basic unaltered stuff, these are going to be your most important active things in the game. This is going to be activating your modules, activating your drones, doing a D-scan, things like that. Not modified, just straight keys. After that, we have the shift modifier, and a lot of the shift modifier is relegated to overheating. In spaces that it's irrelevant to overheat, we have other things that are going to be more command useful. So we have all of our tags and our broadcast and our unlocking target and probe scan. So after that, we have our control modifier. Control modifier does a lot of the controlling heavy lifting, right? More of the situational, like management of how you're targeting, who you're targeting, how you're flying, all that stuff. So a lot of it is we have relegated like the T3D things, the showing brackets, the auto tracking, selecting previous and next target, closing windows, reloading, showing info, all the things that are kind of like not shooting your ship stuff, but stuff that you need to do like on the battlefield. We got autopilot, tactical overlay, fleet regrouping, approaching, cut and copy paste because these are like hard coded in. You can't really change them. Bookmarking locations is stayed Control B. And then also stopping ship. That's just the default. It's very good. You need to know that control space stops your ship. It will save your bacon in a lot of situations. So really get that under your mind. We also, let's talk about space for a second. A little tangent into the space bar. This has our D scan. Space is a very important key. It's the pretty much the easiest key on your keyboard to hit. You got that big thumb button. D-scan is incredibly important. So unmodified, we're D-scanning. We're hitting this a lot. After that, we love exploration. So we have devoted a probe scan to a shift space. And then after that, we have stop ship and full speed ahead for the other modifiers. Stop ship is the default, and full speed is really good. If you, for instance, are trying to uncloak a cloaked target, you can approach them, and then as soon as they cloak, you can just hit Alt Space, and you're going to keep going at full speed in that direction. Little pro tip for you there. Let's get right back on track and now talk about the Alt modifier. The Alt modifier is for our more relaxing Windows-based things. Right up top, we have like our fleet window. We have our Evo forward and backwards. This really helps multi-boxing out. You can just hit Alt-1, Alt-2, and go through all of your clients. Then we have the solar system, the map, and then in our we have our character sheet, wallet, neocom menu, regional market, market orders. So all of the things, all the windows, all the neocom stuff is basically going to be relegated to your alt. So instead of like searching through all the things, finding the fiddly stuff, you just have a shortcut for it. It makes it a lot easier and a lot quicker. And a few last things to talk about is that we have our targeting. So control is a modifier, but it also is you do a lot of things with control itself. So we have locking target. You just hold control and you can click on things on the overview, or you can click and drag in space to lock a bunch of stuff. You have shift control, which is going to unlock targets, the same way blocking does. And then you have alt control, which actually unlocks all targets immediately. So if you're just hard switching to something, alt control is actually a pretty useful button, more than I thought it would be. Another thing is that for our explorers out there is by default and unalterable actually, your 1, 2, and 3 number keys on your keyboard are bound to using tools. So I did give that a little bit of consideration. That's kind of why our modules are not all the way up on 1. They're down on Q, because we can use now in exploration, we can use our tools without activating our modules, which is incredibly handy. It really honestly speeds up hacking a lot, especially when you're using a lot of tools. So a little pro tip, a little thought going in there. And now that we've gone over the tools, how to get them is really honestly quite simple. You can go into your settings yourself and change all of them yourself. Honestly, it's not too hard. It gets pretty easy, but you can also use a profile file. So if you watch our video about our overview, which will be linked at the end, you can go ahead and watch that, and it's going to be the same thing you do. You're just going to use a different file. And I'm going to link my file with my keybinds down below. Do be aware, though, that this is not just keybind information. This is going to be how my clients are set up in their account-wide profile settings. I think they're pretty great, but for instance, your graphic settings are almost definitely going to be different. And so just be aware that like anything that you hit in the escape key button, anything you kind of see there is generally going to fall under this profile settings. If it affects all of your characters the same, it's going to be a profile setting, and my file is going to change yours, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Just something to be aware of. If you don't have a problem with that, use the file. If you do have a problem with that, just manually enter in all the keybinds yourself. It's not a big deal. That's pretty much all we got for today. It's been a pleasure and honor. Again, here is the video on the overview settings, and overview settings combined with keybind settings. Holy crap, you're going to be an entirely new Eve player. Trust me on that one. So watch that video and do all that good stuff. And if you've already done that, there's always, of course, this Eve video that YouTube thinks is really cool. So check that out. Other than that, I will see you guys on the flip side. See you next week.